back to Fun with Food. We are Casey and
Papa D.
And today we are going to be doing seafood edition with Fun with Food.
Fun with food. Remember, food is fun. And let's go ahead and start. The ingredients we're going to be working with today is going to be definitely some fresh lobster and some fresh salmon. So we got some different ingredients that will be incorporated into the fish and into the lobster as well. And the cooking times vary. Lobsters, these are about 1.5 pounds to 2 pounders. So rule of thumb, a pound per pound of lobster cooks for 10 minutes in boiling water. So every additional pound afterwards would be 3 minutes. So we're going to cook these 2 pounders about 13 to 14 minutes, providing our pot's boiling. And we're going to do 2 different methods. We're going to obviously boil, and then we're going to use tails. Well, since we're dealing with live seafood today, you might want to limit the time that you watch this. It could be difficult for some people. Fun with food is fun, but some people might not understand the fact that we're dealing with live crustacean. The salmon has already been processed or has been caught and killed, but the lobsters there will be. So use your discretion if you're okay with watching us cooking live lobsters. We'll put the timestamps of the lobster and the salmon in the description. So our ingredients, other ingredients that we'll be using: peppers, fresh cilantro, dill, some scallions, peppers, limes, and blackberries for the salmon. A little bit about fish. This is an Atlantic salmon that we have. It's indigenous to the East Coast. There are up to 7 varieties of salmon. One exists on the East Coast, which we have is Atlantic. Silver salmon, koa, comes by a couple of different names. And then the other species of salmon are on the West Coast in the Pacific Ocean. And they travel down as far as California in their time at sea, and they also go all the way up to Alaska and into Asia. There are 2 species that are in the Pacific that are indigenous only to Asian waters. So today we're going to cook, and I'll show you how to break down a salmon.
One question, Papa.
Yep.
What type of what the fish and lobsters eat?
Well, that's a good question. Lobsters, many people thought that they were scavengers for years ago, so they would eat anything dead from the bottom of the water. But actually, they eat small mollusks, clams. They will eat mussels. They will eat even small fish, and they will eat small lobsters as well. They're predatory fish that eat them primarily is cod, but other fish do eat them. And what type of lobsters we have here? This is a cold water lobster. Now, sometimes you see these lobsters that don't have any of the big claws, and they're a bit brighter and pinky and white in the shell color. But those are spiny lobsters, and those are predominantly found in warmer waters. Hawaii, that's where you'll find spinies. Florida, a lot of spiny lobsters down there. Africa, that's a major harvest for them down there as well. But these are from Maine, New England states, and Canada. So cold waters, 2 different schools of thought on the lobsters, right? 2 different schools. One is, if you're obviously from Africa or down in the Florida region, what you're consuming is spiny lobsters. Difference is they don't have the main claws here. It's the tail you're eating primarily. Which with these, you just get a little bit more meat, and I feel they have a tendency to be a little sweeter than spinies. But nonetheless, they are both very good. Okay, so in filleting the fish, obviously the tools you'll need, sharp knives, and I prefer, when I'm filleting fish, I prefer a flexible knife, a fillet knife. But to butcher the head and the tail off where you're cutting bone, then I use a sturdier knife. You can fillet a fish with a multitude of knives. I prefer the thin blade when I'm taking the fillet from the bone, and the reason for that is that I find I can have better control over the knife and not leaving a lot of the flesh, which is money, on the bone. So, without further ado, a couple of things too. What we see in fish, and this is an Atlantic salmon. Now this salmon, Atlantic salmon are pretty much all farm raised. This one is from Norway, and it is raised in a pen in the fjords. A lot of aquaculture goes on. That in the early 70s, people really weren't into it because they found that keeping them in pens and feeding them various pellets, they would develop disease. That was early on in aquaculture. Now it's a wonderful thing. They have these great pens. These fish actually are raised in large submerged pens in the fjords, which normally they live in, but they just don't go out to the ocean and then back again. And there's obviously the different salmon that we have. This is, like I said, Atlantic salmon. It's very silver. You can see the beautiful color. A couple of things on freshness of fish. This one has been out of the water 3 days. It flew, if you can imagine. It spent some time on an airplane getting here to the U.S. And then delivered here. So it's still very fresh. It was packed in ice. The Great Lakes. The Great Lakes also, Michigan, I believe it was, Lake Michigan was the first lake to plant coho salmon. So now it wasn't indigenous to the lakes, but since salmon are born in fresh water, then they migrate out to salt water. The oldest living salmon is a king salmon, and they can get up to 135 pounds. You can find those, not anymore, but in Alaska, where I'm from in the Pacific Northwest on the Columbia River. These were just babies, but they still eat well. So without further ado, when you're buying fresh whole fish, you want to be sure that the eye is clear. What I mean by clear is as the fish ages, it's a way to tell freshness, it will become milky white. So you know it's been out of the water quite longer. The other side is to check the gills. Now these gills, as you can tell, it's been out of the water. It's also been in ice, so they're not the bright red that they were. Just yesterday when I got it, it was just bright red. So it's been in ice. That's a little bit about the fish. So now I'm going to start to break it down. And I'm going to remove the fins because I don't want my knife to get hung up on these. In cannery, when they're doing this on a boat, they really don't care. They just cut, and it's off. But working in a restaurant, the money is in the fish. The money is in the fish, not in the. So when you're doing it in a cannery, you're paid by the pound. How much you can fillet, how quick. So right here is what they call the gill. This is the gill plate. Gill right here is the gill plate, which is very firm. The rest of the fish is soft. So I'm just going to take my knife and cut up towards the head. Anything back here is money. Okay, this is all the good flesh. You don't want that to waste. This is called the collar, and we're just going to cut right up to the top of the head, All right. Then, using the tail as a handle, we're going to flip it over and do the same thing on this side. And this is where the big knife comes in, because now I'm going to remove the head. The bone is thick at this point, the backbone. So, and voila, one fish head. So what we've got here is great stock. So what we do with this is it doesn't go to waste, because we're going to preserve the catch. If you're out in the ocean and you spent money to get out there to catch these fish, you're going to want to use every bit of it. And here we go. We're going to, at this point, I'm going to cut the tail off right at the base of where the fins come in. Okay. And this would go into the stock pot with a little, maybe a half an onion and carrot, a little bit of celery, and you boil that. After about 35 minutes, you got a great fish stock for other things. So, a couple of different ways to fillet a fish. Where I'm going to show you, you can start at the top. So once you look at the fish, you can see right here the backbone. A salmon, trout, sea bass, they're all considered round fish. Flatfish are like flounder, halibut, sole. Those are because they stay on the bottom and they're flat. That's why they call these round fish. Okay, so I'm going to start at the tail. At the bottom here, you can see the different segments of each fillet. Okay, so each side has it, and you can see where the bones go. Can you see that, Case? On how that is?
Yes.
So this is a fillet. So the bones go right up the middle like this, and then as you can see on this side, it has rib cages too. So that's the important part, to pull that off without leaving the meat on the bone. So I'm on top. There's a bone, as you can see here. As we cut that top fin off, you can see that bone line. So that's the backbone. The spinal is here, the backbone goes in like that. Okay? So we're just going to cut around that and then right down. And you can see what we've done here is we've basically split half of the fish on this side of the backbone, so it's running up. And there's fat. The skin has fat around it, so you can use that to hold it up. And you can hear the knife going along the backbone. And then we've got pen bones that come out the side here that go up into, that run right down along the line. They come from the spinal cord, and then they're just little pin bones that go shoot up like that. And they only run down to about this far, but the ones up towards the head are very strong, very hard. So you need to get those cleared. And you can hear that cut. I'm just going to run down And now here's the fat I was talking about. And I'm going to use that just as a handle. So now you can see how I'm going to work the knife. And to get the rest of the fish, the flesh off the fish. Without cutting the rib cage. And then when you get down towards the belly, the bone gets very thin. And we'll just cut that off. And there's one salmon fillet.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a pen bone that I was talking about. Right here. You can feel it. So come over here and feel that.
Right here?
Yep, run your finger down right here. Start here and go this way. Feel them?
Mm-hmm.
So we use pliers to pull those out. Because a lot of people, they don't want to eat bones with their fish.
Mm-hmm.
So the belly in a clean fillet is like, we'll take this. And I'll cut it off at an angle, clear all the way down to where the anal fin was. And that gives my belly meat, which goes great for chowders. What we're going to be doing today is taking this part and turning it into fish tacos. These are obviously the skin. And we're going to talk about skin as well once we get it off there. Alaska, the Eskimos, they do it in like a soy marinade, the skin, and they'll deep fry that. Kajiki.
Mm.
Yeah, and we'll do some of that too, so you guys can taste that. And
Okay, now I'm just trying to move myself.
okay, all of this will be stock for making seafood chowders. It also makes a great, I use it for, when we make the stock, we can use it as well for flavoring sauté dishes, salmon, seafoods, others. Recording. So, salmon, filleted.
I was in the way for that, but
Byproducts will be the backbone and stock. There you go. Grab, pull, and shake. Pull and shake. Pull that like you mean it. Keep that knife on the counter. This is what you're shaking.
Alright.
Oh, you see me? There you go. Case is skinning the fish. Okay, stop. Now get another grip up here. Where you got it. Wrap your hands around it. Okay, go for it.
Right here. And then.
On the table. Keep it on the table.
No.
Shake it. You're going to cut the skin. And you shake it back and forth. Not the knife. You just cut the skin. Okay, stop.
I'm sorry.
This is what, no problem. This is what fun with food is. See how you did it?
Mm-hmm.
When you started shaking the knife instead of the skin, this is what happens.
Alright.
So you can definitely get through that by finishing. Yeah, yank it. There you go. Get another grip on it. Woohoo! Perfect!
Check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Huh? Perfect. Case, that's Case skin and fish right there. Skinned his first salmon he did. Or maybe this is your 15th, I don't know. Casey now is going to remove the pin bones.
Yeah, I'm gonna remove all the pin bones. grab it. It's like
Kind of a challenge, isn't it? Got him? All right, so then we
Is
can
that
start.
because does it only go a certain way?
Yep, it only goes down to about here on the pen bones. Those are the bones that go on the sides of the fish like this, guys. That's what helps it turn its body, the muscle. Here we are with our lobsters, and we're getting ready to cook them.
Things
You
are
can
feisty
get you,
one.
don't worry. So, I got these fresh this morning. Okay, what we're doing with these other two is we're just going to separate the tails from the bodies. So
Okay.
you can put that one in, and I'll do the same thing with this one. I'm going to put it right in the
Pot.
right in the pot.
What's the green stuff?
That is called a tamal. That green stuff is prime flavor. What they do in New England states, actually what that is it's a combination of a liver and a pancreas for the animal. That's how it processes it. So once you cook it, we'll take that and we'll mix it with a little cream cheese, and oh my,
It's tasty.
it's wonderful stuff.
Okay.
So that one goes in, separating the tail from the head. Most people who buy lobster tails. There you go, sir. Put that one in the other pot. Now we're going to prep the tails for cooking. You see how the nerves are still there?
Yeah.
And the tail, just so everybody knows, is a muscle. So the natural part of a lobster and how it gets away, so it's got its head and its claws, it walks on the ground to find its food, but when a predator comes by, how does it get away from it? It goes backwards. So that tail pulls it and just whoosh, it goes quickly through the water. And how we do that, we're going to go to the last segment of the tail, right here. With the knife, insert it, and split it up. Then we're going to pull the muscle meat, the tail meat up, and put it on top of the shell. And when we do that, then we're going to cover it, and put a little bit of white wine and lemon juice in the pan. So again, the last segment before, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right here, we're going to insert the tip of the knife and not cut all the way through.
Just the shell, basically.
Exactly. So we want to break it
And pull them apart.
and then release the muscle from the shell. See how sharp those are? They're that way as a defense, so when somebody comes to eat it, it's going to pay the price when it swallows it.
It's gonna hurt.
Now that we've removed the muscle from the tail, this is the vein. We want to remove the vein, right? Then we're going to do this. When the lobsters grow, which is interesting, they are like, it's called the molt. And what happens is this, as they get bigger, the muscle inside gets bigger, so the shell that starts to develop a soft shell on the inside, and it discards the outer shell.
Alright, so now we're gonna...
13 minutes later,
Yeah, 13 minutes later, this is what they look like. One. And the other. these.
Yep. Grab the claws, the bodies. All right. So, cooked lobster. Claws, meat, and then 2 tails, which we're going to bake. So they're different cooking methods. This is boiled. These we're going to bake. Well, we're going to prep these 2 for the oven to bake. Well, we're going to squeeze a little lemon on there.
See,
Yeah, good, good. Good, good. Then we're going to use a little pan spray to protect them from the moisture barrier that we're going to put on them, so they won't stick. And this is...
put in more lemon there.
No, it's all good. And this is the moisture barrier we're going to use to bake them. We're going to cover them with lettuce. As they bake, it kind of helps them to steam and cook evenly. So this will be about 6 minutes in the oven to finish these. So just take the bodies off. Just so you know, all of this lobster can be used, even the shells. The shells, what I do at work is we dry them out. We let them dry after we cook them, and then you can dry them in the oven to make it faster. Toast them up a little bit, just the shell alone. Then I put in a big mixer with some butter and some other herbs and spices, and a little bit of tomato paste, and let those shells just grind down. The flavor comes out of them. Strain it through a very fine sieve a couple of times so there's absolutely no shell left. Then once it sets up, I have lobster butter. That is really rich in flavor that's just been extracted from the shells. Other things that are real tasty is the tamal, which is in the lobster body. This green stuff right here, as I mentioned to Casey earlier, this is the tamal, which is the liver, kind of pancreas, and it's been known to be a delicacy. When you eat it, it's a very nice, sweet, seafood kind of a flavor. Like I said, you can mix it with butter and or cream cheese. I know a lot of the New Englanders, they just use it and they spread it on crackers, which is pretty neat. Fun with food.
Fun with food.
Now the small legs, obviously there is meat in the body, as you can see, that you can shake out.
Mm-hmm.
But that has a tendency to be a lot of work. Most people just eat the tails and the claws, and they discard the rest. But there is so much that can be done with the byproducts. And when we go back and think about Thanksgiving and the first pilgrims that set foot for the first time on these shores at Plymouth Rock, the indigenous people or the Native Americans that were here first, the pilgrims would have died had they not been taught how to hunt and fish in these lands. And in New England, these little crustaceans were everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Same way with the salmon, same way with fish, the deer, wild turkey was part of that time, still is, got a lot of wild turkey around. But they would have perished had they not been for the Native Americans on this continent. All right, so we're going to let these cool. We'll finish those. That's good.
There you go.
Look at that.
And then we're going to
Yeah, just said that's going to be in the trash, so yeah, you don't have to worry about it.
Now, here, you want me to crack it like right here?
Yeah, you got to crack it so you get the flesh. They're kind of soft. They really aren't going to break. You might have to do it on the end, but you will figure it out. That's why it's fun with food. How do we get the lobster meat out of the shell now? We got to separate the meat from the lobster. And that's how we do that. Done. See how quick that was? I showed you how to do that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that will pull the meat out. All right, now we've broken down our fish, and now we're going to cut it into portions.
Mm-hmm.
And Casey's going to go ahead. We're going to use this. We've got our scale here.
Mm-hmm.
It's on, and it's set for ounces. So now what we want to do is cut it when we're cutting it into portions. Now, as you can see, this one's kind of odd shaped, so we'll cut this straight down.
Now we have that.
And then we want to do about 6-ounce portions, okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 684.
Okay, so it's a little heavier, but that gives you an idea how
big.
thick you want to cut them.
So probably.
So a little bit thinner, so that should give you your 6.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Remember, you want to try to cut straight. Pull the knife through now, all the way through. Okay, and put that piece up on the scale.
7 ounce.
So we're a little heavy, so we need to cut a little thinner. But 7 to 8 ounces is good. It just seems in more, so it's a little bit heavier portion. We're going to use the tails for different things. We're going to make, that's what we're going to pickle the tails. So.
That's exactly 6.
Wait, is that exactly 6?
Well,
Okay, so now what we're going to do is basically prep some of this fish to pickle. And this is preserving the catch. Oftentimes when you go and you get fish, right, such as a salmon, this was 16 pounds, it's a little large for most families. So we're going to prep it all the way down and do different things that you can do with it. Now, preserving it, I'm going to cut it about 1 inch by 2 inches, and then we're going to put it in a pickle brine that we made. There's just a little bit of pickling juice.
want me to bring it over?
Yep, yep.
Can you want to tell like what's in the pickle?
Yeah, well, it's a pickling. It's a classic pickling. It's vinegar, water, sugar, salt, and pickling spice, and bay leaf. So we're going to soak our fish in that for about 2 days. The video, obviously, you won't be able to see it. We might do a snapshot of the finished product later, but we want to go ahead and get our fish pickled, and it'll be covered and put in the refrigerator for the 2 days. So, and those are basically scrap pieces. You know, you can use the tails, obviously. You can smoke the salmon. You can brine it and smoke it, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. As far as flavors, some people, you know, the different smokes, the different woods give it a different flavor. Hickory would be probably the strongest. Mesquite would be a little milder. Alder is definitely milder when you go to finish smoking, which is real nice. Okay, we'll just throw these in the old pickle brine. Now, when you're pickling, you'll see that they float to the top. And what's the key is important on pickling is to keep them submerged. So, what we're going to do is use a piece of plastic wrap. So, and then what we'll do with the plastic wrap, as it clings to the bowl, and the edges, we're going to submerge it, keep it down by letting the plastic work like a capillary action, where it pulls the liquid up around it. Okay, you want to take that back downstairs?
Yep.
And that will sit for 2 to 3 days. Well, we'll be cooking some of the salmon in a couple different ways. We're gonna grill some on the stove top.
So you think I should turn it now?
What do you think? You've just done 8 of them. Good job.
Whoa!
Woo! And that's what happens to a plate. 2 cooking methods for the salmon that we did. Case is doing the belly pieces. It's going to be fish tacos. Those have been tossed in what?
The taco seasoning.
Correct. And we make our own, or you can buy it.
Yep.
And what I'm doing here is sauteing the salmon, another method of cooking.
Here.